My name is Aussie Marcel, the most luscious locks on YouTube, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing a women's fragrance, Sunflowers by Elizabeth Arden. Now, first impressions of Sunflowers by Elizabeth Arden, I thought it was kind of cheap looking, but after actually looking at the packaging, there was some poetry on it and I felt that was a really nice touch, so I'm just going to read that out. And the sun was shining when he held me, and I felt a deep flowering of pleasure, all at once, like a sunflower opening up. You know, I'm a big fan of writing both poetry and prose, and I thought that was a really nice touch to this. And I think fragrances and fragrance houses should use poetry more often when describing a fragrance, because I do think, you know, perfumery is an art, so is poetry and writing. So the two of them, you know, combined, I just think it's a really nice touch, and I would like to see it more often. As for the fragrance itself, I'll just show you the packaging here. I thought this fragrance was from like the 70s or 80s, but it's actually from 1993. And I was surprised by that because it looks older than the early 90s. And I'll just show you the bottle again. It's an interesting look, it's very simple, and it's a little cheap looking, but I wouldn't let that deter you from actually trying out the fragrance, because, or actually I should say, I wouldn't let the way the fragrance smells from the atomizer, if you've just got a bottle of it and you're smelling the cap, I wouldn't let that deter you from trying it out either, because it smells very different on your skin than it does coming out of the atomizer or on a tester strip. The atomizer as well is quite good. Very powerful. And this is an eau de toilette, not an eau de parfum. So the opening is going to be a little sharper than your typical eau de parfum. Once you get past the perfumer's alcohol and the ethanol notes, what you're left with is something very bright, very citrusy, and a little floral. I don't get sunflowers necessarily, but I do get bergamot, I get lemon, I get a little bit of melon, and I get a touch of wood as well, and some sweet notes as well. I saw on Fragrantica that one of the main accords is fruity, and if you read the accords of Fragrantica and go into this expecting a really fruity, sweet fragrance, you may be a little disappointed, because to my nose it was more citrus heavy and more floral than it was sweet. There is a little sweetness here, so if you like a little bit of sweetness in your fragrances, maybe this is going to appeal to you. Another thing I should say is that the fragrance itself, my partner said, smelled as though it's an old fragrance. There's a bit of a classic / vintage vibe to it, and I 100% agree with that. This does smell like it's quite old, but I wouldn't let that, like I said before, deter you from trying it out, because it is quite a nice fragrance. I can't comment too much on the performance. I reckon it would be okay, even though it's an eau de toilette. But because there's a lot of citrus notes in here, and it's floral, citruses and floral notes don't typically last a long time. So maybe shop for something else if that's sort of more what you're after, if you're after a lot of performance. But I did spray this on my hand a while ago, and before I sprayed it again, I could still smell it, so you know, maybe your performance will be quite nice. And obviously, if you're buying this, you're probably going to be a woman, and it will perform differently on your skin than it would on mine, you know, because I'm a smelly boy and all of that. Anyways, the fragrance, because it does come across as a little older, a more mature woman is probably more suited to wear this. However, if you're younger and you want to smell a little older, a little more mature, not as juvenile or as young, then Sunflowers might be a really good option for you, especially at the price that I paid for it, which was $15 Australian. You may find it a little more expensive or a little cheaper in your area, but at the random chemist that I was in after breakfast this morning, I got it for $15. And at that price, I think it's pretty decent, especially for just like a cheap women's fragrance to add to your collection. Anyways, have you ever worn Sunflowers by Elizabeth Arden before? If you have, let me know in the comments below, as I'm pretty interested to hear what you guys think. And until the next video, my name is Aussie Marcel, the most luscious locks on YouTube, and I'll catch you guys around.